Jack was nervous. This wasn't his first time on an alien planet, but it was the first time he was walking around a local market on a peaceful diplomatic mission. The soft hum of the hovering carts, the chatter of alien species in various languages, and the beautiful mix of alien colors were all strange and exciting. Jack had always been fascinated by alien cultures, and this was an opportunity to understand them better. His eyes were wide as he scanned his surroundings, feeling a little out of place in his Earth uniform. As he strolled, Jack accidentally bumped into someone. "Oh, I'm sorry," he said quickly, his face turning red. The woman he had bumped into looked at him with wide eyes. She was beautiful, but in a soft and gentle way. Her skin was a delicate shade of lavender, and her long, silver hair flowed gracefully behind her. She looked like someone from another world, which of course she was. Jack stepped back, expecting an angry response, but instead the woman smiled at him. It was a smile full of warmth and kindness, and for a moment, Jack forgot what he was. "Doing your cute," she said quietly, her voice almost like a melody. The words caught Jack off guard. He hadn't expected such a compliment, especially from someone so otherworldly. Jack blinked in surprise. "Not more than you," he replied without thinking. A little shy but also intrigued by her presence. The woman's eyes widened slightly, and then her smile grew even wider. A soft blush spread across her cheeks, and Jack couldn't help but feel like he had done something right. Her shyness was endearing, and it made him feel strangely at ease. The woman took a step back, still looking at him, and then, in a soft voice, she said, "Thank you." Her eyes locked with his for a moment, before she quickly glanced away, as if she was embarrassed. Jack felt a strange pull toward her. There was something captivating about her, not just her beauty, but the way she carried herself, as if there was a deep well of strength behind her gentle appearance. He watched her for a few seconds, unsure of what to say next. She was clearly not like the others in the market. Most of the aliens around him seemed busy or uninterested in what was going on, but this woman, she was different. "Are you from around here?" Jack asked hesitantly, trying to break the awkward silence. The woman looked back at him, her expression thoughtful for a moment. "Yes, I am," she replied, her voice soft but clear. "I live here, in the city, but I don't often visit the market. It's crowded." She smiled again, this time a little more confidently. Jack chuckled lightly, feeling a bit more comfortable. "I can understand that. It's a little overwhelming for me, too," she laughed, and it was a soft, musical sound that made Jack smile. He hadn't expected her to laugh, and it made him feel like he had just connected with someone in an unexpected way. "I'm Alira," she said, offering her hand. Jack took her hand, shaking it gently. "I'm Jack. Nice to meet you, Alira." They stood there for a moment, unsure of what to say next. Jack was a little embarrassed, not used to being this shy or uncertain around someone. But there was something about Alira that made him feel at ease, even though they were from completely different worlds. "You know," Alira began, glancing at the busy market around them, "this place can be a little much. Would you like to take a walk with me, away from the crowd?" Jack smiled, feeling a sense of relief. "I'd love that." They began to walk side by side, leaving the bustling market behind. Jack noticed how different Alira seemed compared to the other aliens around him. While most were focused on their tasks or conversations, Alira moved with a quiet grace. Steps were light, almost as if she were gliding. He couldn't help but notice the way her lavender skin shimmered slightly in the sunlight, a soft glow that made her appear even more ethereal as they walked. Jack found himself asking questions about her home planet, the culture, and the people. Alira answered him with quiet enthusiasm, sharing small bits of information about her life and her people. She told him that her species was known for their peaceful nature and their deep connection to the natural world. They had built cities that blended perfectly with the environment, creating a balance between technology and nature. Jack was fascinated. He had learned a lot about alien species, but this was different. Alira wasn't just telling him facts. She was sharing pieces of her heart. He felt an unexpected connection to her, something he couldn't explain. It wasn't just the way she looked or her gentle manner. There was something deeper, sense of understanding between them that he had never experienced before. As they reached a quiet garden on the edge of the city, Lyra turned to him with a soft smile. "This is my favorite place," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's peaceful here." Jack nodded, looking around. The garden was beautiful, filled with vibrant alien flowers and tall trees that seemed to hum with life. The air was fresh and fragrant, and the sounds of the market seemed to fade away, replaced by the soft rustling of the leaves. "This is amazing," Jack said, genuinely impressed. "I can see why you like it." Lyra smiled again, her cheeks flushing. "Slightly. I'm glad you like it." For a few moments they stood in silence, both lost in the peaceful atmosphere. Jack couldn't help but feel that this moment, this encounter, was more than just a chance meeting. There was something about Lyra that felt familiar, even though they had just met. He didn't understand it, but he couldn't deny it. Lyra said quietly, breaking the silence. "I'm glad you bumped into me today." Jack turned to her, meeting her gaze. "So am I," he replied, smiling shyly, and for a moment everything else faded away. It was just the two of them standing in the quiet garden, feeling like something had just begun. The next few days passed by in a blur. Jack found himself thinking about Lyra more than he should have. Her smile, the way her lavender skin shimmered in the light, and the way she spoke with such calm confidence, everything about her intrigued. He had met many people on his travels, but none of them made him feel the way she did. He tried to stay focused on his mission, but it was difficult to ignore the pull he felt toward Lyra. Their brief walk together in the garden had left him with a sense of longing. She was kind and open, and every conversation with her felt like it brought them closer. Jack hadn't expected to form a connection like this during his diplomatic mission, but here he was, thinking about a woman from another world. On the third day, after a long meeting with the local officials, Jack received a message from Lyra. She had left him a note at the hotel where he was staying, inviting him to visit her city. The message was simple, but its meaning was clear. Lyra wanted him to see more of her world, to understand her life beyond the city's markets. Jack couldn't resist. He sent a quick reply, agreeing to meet her the next day. The following morning, Lyra met him at the entrance of the hotel, her silver hair flowing gently behind her, her soft lavender skin glowing in the early sunlight. She smiled at Jack, a smile that made his heart skip a beat. She was even more beautiful up close. He found it hard to look away from her. "I'm glad you decided to come," Lyra said softly. Her voice was filled with warmth, and Jack couldn't help but feel at ease. "I wouldn't miss it for anything." "No," Jack replied, his words more sincere than he had meant them to be. He was nervous, but excited at the same time. He wasn't sure what to expect, but he knew that visiting her world was something special. Together, they walked through the quiet streets of the city. Jack was struck by how different everything felt from the bustling market. The city was peaceful, with winding paths surrounded by tall trees and sparkling streams. The air was fresh, and the buildings blended seamlessly into the natural landscape. It was a world that seemed to exist in perfect harmony with its surroundings. As they walked, Lyra explained more about her people. "We've built our cities to be in balance with nature," she said, her eyes lighting up as she spoke. "We believe in living with the land, not on it. Everything here has a purpose, and we make sure we never take more than we need." Jack listened intently, fascinated by the way Lyra spoke about her culture. Her people had found a way to live in harmony with the environment, something that humans hadn't yet mastered. Jack couldn't help but admire their way of life. It seemed so simple, yet so powerful. As they continued their walk, Lyra led him to a large open square at the center of the city. In the center stood a large tree, its branches stretching high into the sky. The tree was unlike any Jack had ever seen before. Its leaves shimmered with a soft light. Its bark seemed to pulse with life. "This is the heart tree," Lyra explained, her voice reverent. "It's the center of our city, the source of our strength. Our people have always believed that. The heart tree connects us to the world around us, that it gives us the energy we need to live in balance with nature." Jack stared up at the tree in awe. It was beautiful, unlike anything he had ever seen. He could feel the energy in the air, as if the tree was alive with power. It made him feel small, but not in a bad way, more like a part of something bigger than himself. Illyra smiled at him, sensing his awe. "Would you like to sit with me for a while?" she asked. Jack nodded, and the two of them sat down beneath the heart tree. The air around them was calm, and the only sounds were the gentle rustling of the leaves and the distant sounds of the city. For a long time, neither of them spoke. They simply sat together, enjoying the quiet comfort of each other's company. Eventually, Illyra broke the silence. "I don't bring many people here," she said softly. "Only those who I trust. I've never shared this part of my world with anyone from outside." Jack felt a warmth in his chest at her words. Oh, it was an honor to be included in such a personal part of her life. "Thank you for showing me this," he said sincerely. "I feel like I'm seeing your world in a way no one else ever will." Illyra smiled, a soft blush coloring her cheeks. "I'm glad you're here," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want you to understand what's important to me. This place, it's where I feel most at home." They spent the rest of the afternoon talking about their lives, their dreams, and their worlds. Jack found himself opening up in ways he hadn't expected. Illyra's gentle nature made it easy to share his thoughts, and he felt a deep sense of connection with her. They weren't so different, despite being from different worlds. Both of them understood what it meant to long for something more, to find peace in a chaotic universe. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the city, Illyra turned to Jack with a serious expression. "Jack," she said, her voice steady, "there's something I need to tell you." Jack looked at her, his heart beating faster. "What is it?" Illyra hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "You've made me feel things I didn't think were possible. I've always been so careful, so distant, but with you..." She looked down at her hands, her voice soft. "I'm not sure what this is, but I know I don't want it to end." Jack felt a rush of emotions. He had never expected to hear something like that, not from someone so distant and reserved. "I feel the same way," he said, his voice full of honesty. "I don't know what's going to happen next, but I know I don't want this to end either." Illyra smiled at him again, this time with a confidence that made Jack's heart swell. "Then let's see where this takes us," she said, her voice steady and full of hope. As the night fell around them, Jack realized that no matter what the future held, this moment, this connection, was something he would never forget. The days that followed were filled with quiet moments, laughter, and shared glances. Jack and Illyra spent more time together, exploring the quiet corners of her world. It felt as though their connection was growing with each passing day. In the back of Jack's mind, there was always the reality of their differences. He was a human, visiting from Earth on a diplomatic mission, and she was from a species that had never allowed outsiders to get close. Despite the bond they were forming, Jack couldn't ignore the fact that their worlds were still so far apart. One evening, as the two of them walked through the lush gardens near Illyra's home, Jack couldn't help but feel a pang of doubt. He had never been in a relationship like this before, and he knew that it wasn't going to be easy. He had come here as part of a mission to foster peace, to learn about other cultures and establish friendly ties. But now, his feelings for Illyra were growing stronger, and the mission seemed less important than the woman beside him. "Illyra," Jack said, breaking the comfortable silence between them. "I've been thinking a lot about this, about us." Illyra stopped walking and turned to face him. Her violet eyes were soft, filled with curiosity, but also a hint of concern. "Hey, what are you thinking, Jack?" she asked, her voice calm. Though Jack could hear the slight tension in her words. "I don't know if this is right," Jack admitted. "I don't know what's going to happen after my mission is over.
Oh.
I never expected to feel this way, but now, I'm not sure where we go from here. We're from different worlds. It's complicated." Lyra's face softened, and she placed a hand gently on his arm. "I understand, Jack. I've thought about it too. Our worlds are different, and the future is uncertain. But that doesn't change how I feel about you. What we have here, now this is real to me." Jack felt a weight lift off his chest, but he also felt conflicted. He wanted to believe her, but the realities of their lives seemed so complicated. Still looking into Illyra's eyes, He realized that no matter what happened, this connection was something he didn't want to lose. "I care about you," Alira, Jack said, his voice steady but full of emotion. "More than I thought possible. I don't want to walk away from this from you. I don't know if it's even possible for us to make this work." Alira smiled, a soft, knowing smile. "I don't have all the answers, Jack. No one does. Maybe we don't need to know everything right now. We can just be here, together, and see where it takes us." Jack nodded slowly, feeling a sense of peace settle over him. It wasn't the answer he had been looking for, but it was enough. For now. It was enough to know that they both felt the same way, that they could take things one step at a time. And as long as they were together, maybe that was all that mattered. For the next few days, Jack and Alira continued to explore her world, but now with a deeper understanding of what their connection meant. They spent more time away from the city. In the quieter, more remote parts of her home planet, Jack marveled at the beauty of the land-rolling hills, peaceful lakes, and vast forests that seemed to stretch on forever. Alira showed him the hidden wonders of her world, places that even most of her people rarely saw. They found a secluded lake surrounded by tall, silver trees. The water shimmered like glass, reflecting the colors of the sky and the stars above. It was there, by the edge of the lake, that Alira took Jack's hand in hers for the first time. "I want you to know something," Alira said, her voice soft but full of emotion. "In my world, we don't let many people close. We've been cautious for a reason, but with you, I don't feel the need to hide." Jack squeezed her hand, feeling the weight of her words. "I don't want you to hide, Alira. Not from me. I want to know you. All of you." A shy smile tugged at Alira's lips. "And I want you to know me, Jack. I want to share everything with you." For the first time, Jack felt like he truly understood what Alira meant. This wasn't just a fleeting moment, a short-term connection. This was something real, something worth fighting for. He didn't know what the future held, or if their two worlds would ever fully accept their bond, but for the first time, he felt like that didn't matter. What mattered was the bond they shared in this moment, as they sat by the lake, watching the stars appear one by one in the sky. Alira leaned her head against Jack's shoulder. He felt a wave of warmth and contentment wash over him. This was the most peaceful he had ever felt, and he knew that no matter what happened, he would carry this moment with him forever. The night grew quiet around them, the only sound, the soft rustle of the trees in the breeze. Jack found himself looking at Alira, taking in the way the soft light from the stars illuminated her face. There was something about the way she looked at him, as if she were seeing him for the first time, as if everything had changed between them in that moment. "I don't know what's going to happen," Jack said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I know I don't want to let go of this." "Of you," Alira turned to face him, her eyes shining in the moonlight. "Neither do I, Jack. Neither do I." They sat there together, side by side, in the quiet stillness of the night. Jack realized that whatever the future held, they had already crossed a line they couldn't go back from. But that didn't scare him anymore, because, for the first time in his life, Jack knew what it felt like to truly connect with someone, to feel like they belonged together, despite all the differences between them. The days that followed seemed to pass in a dreamlike blur. Jack and Alira had grown even closer, spending nearly every moment together. They shared meals, walked through the gardens, and talked about everything: life, love, and the worlds they came from. Alira's warmth made Jack forget about the looming realities of their differences. And Jack's kindness helped Alira open up in ways she had never done before. But despite the connection between them, there were forces beyond their control that began to stir, forces that neither of them fully understood. One afternoon, after a peaceful walk through the forest, Alira seemed more distant than usual. Her usual smile was replaced with a concerned frown, and her words were fewer. Jack couldn't help but notice the change. "Alira, is everything okay?" Jack asked, his voice full of concern. Alira paused and looked at him, her violet eyes troubled. She opened her mouth to speak, but hesitated. "There's something I need to tell you, Jack," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's about my people, about the council." Jack felt a knot form in his stomach. He had known there was something Alira hadn't shared, something deeper than the peaceful stories she had told him about her world. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice steady, though he could feel his heart rate quicken. Alira took a deep breath, looking away from him. "I come from a society that values secrecy," she began. "We've kept ourselves isolated from the rest of the galaxy for centuries. Our council, the group of leaders who guide us, believes that outsiders cannot be trusted. I think that if we open ourselves too much to the galaxy, it could bring danger to us. They think that people like you humans are a threat." Jack was shocked. "They think I'm a threat?" he asked, disbelief evident in his voice. "I'm just here for the mission, to learn about your world and help make peace." "I know," Alira said quickly. "But the council doesn't see it that way. They see humans as unpredictable, dangerous. And the more time you spend here, the more attention you're drawing. Some of them have begun to see our friendship as a risk to their control. They're afraid that if we become too close, we could end up revealing things about our society that they don't want others to know." Jack's mind was racing. He had never considered that his presence on this planet would cause such unrest. He had come here to learn, to help, but now it seemed like he might be part of a much bigger problem. "Are they going to do something about it?" Jack asked, his voice low. Alira hesitated, then nodded. "They've already started making plans. Some of the council members are pushing for your removal, and some are even suggesting that we cut ties entirely. We want to protect our way of life even if it means ending our friendship." Jack's heart sank. "So that's it? They just want to end everything we've built?" Alira shook her head, her eyes filled with pain. "It's not just about us. It's about the safety of my people. And they think that if they allow one person to get too close, it will weaken our defenses." "I don't know what to do, Jack. I'm torn between my duty to my people and my feelings." "For you," Jack took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. This wasn't just about him and Alira anymore. This was about her people, her culture, and the delicate balance they had fought to protect for centuries. "I don't want to put you in a difficult position," Jack said quietly. "But I can't just leave. I care about you, Alira, more than I've ever cared about anything. I'm not just going to walk away from this." Alira looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. "I don't want you to leave either, Jack. But my people, they might not give us a choice. There's so much at stake." Jack's mind was racing, trying to figure out what to do. He couldn't leave. He couldn't walk away from Alira and the life they had started to build together. But at the same time, he didn't want to cause her any more pain. He knew how much her people meant to her, and he didn't want to be the cause of any harm. "Maybe there's a way to talk to them," Jack said slowly. "Maybe we can find a way to convince them that we're not a threat, that what we have isn't a danger to their world." Alira shook her head sadly. "The council is very strict. They don't listen to outsiders, and they don't believe in compromise. If they decide that you're a risk, they won't change their minds." Jack felt a wave of frustration wash over him. He didn't know what to do. He wanted to stay, to continue his mission, and to be with Alira, but it was starting to feel impossible. "I don't want to lose you, Alira," Jack said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "But I also don't want to be the reason your people are in danger." Alira placed a hand on his arm, her touch gentle. "You're not the problem, Jack. The problem is fear. And my people have lived in fear for so long that they don't know how to trust anyone. But that doesn't mean we have to live in fear too." Jack looked at her, his heart filled with both hope and uncertainty. He had never faced a situation like this before. The mission, the council, the future, everything was out of his control. "I'll do whatever I can to make this work, Alira," Jack said, his voice steady. "I care about you, and I'm not going to give up on us." Alira smiled softly, though. There was still sadness in her eyes. "Thank you, Jack. I don't know what will happen next, but I'm glad I have you by my side." As they stood there, facing each other, the weight of their world seemed to grow heavier. But Jack knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. Even if the council couldn't see it, even if their worlds were on the brink of conflict, Jack knew that the bond between him and Alira was stronger than anything that could try to tear them apart. The days that followed were filled with a growing sense of urgency. Jack and Alira spent every moment they could together, but the reality of their situation hung over them like a dark cloud. Jack couldn't stop thinking about what Alira had said about the council. Her people were in danger, and it was all because of their connection. They had no future if the council didn't accept them, and they couldn't hide what they felt anymore. But Jack wasn't going to give up on Alira, not now. They had been walking through the forest one afternoon, peaceful sounds of the trees rustling in the breeze around them. Jack stopped and turned to Alira. The weight of the decision pressing on him had reached its breaking point. "Alira," Jack began, his voice firm but gentle. "We can't keep running from this. We have to face the council. If they're going to make a decision about us, we need to stand up for what we have." Alira looked at him, her violet eyes filled with concern. That's not going to be easy, Jack. The council is strict, and they're set in their ways. They won't listen to reason, especially when it comes to something like this." "I don't care," Jack said, his voice more determined than ever. "I'm not just going to leave. We've built something here, Alira, and if the council can't see that, then maybe they're the ones who need to change." Alira took a step forward, her hand reaching out to touch Jack's. The contact made him feel a little more at ease, but it also reminded him of the stakes of what they were about to do. They were about to challenge the very foundation of Alira's world, the rules that had kept her people safe for so long. "I don't want to lose you," Alira said quietly, her voice trembling with emotion. "But I also don't want to cause harm to my people. My world is built on their rules, their beliefs. They may never understand what we have." "I get it," Jack said softly, squeezing her hand. "But I believe in us. I believe in what we have, and I'm not going to let them decide for us. We have to try, Alira. We can't just give up." Alira nodded slowly, her gaze meeting his. "You're right. We have to try. Can't hide forever." The next morning, Jack and Alira made their way to the council's chambers. The air was thick with tension as they approached the large building. It was an ancient structure, made from smooth stone and covered in intricate carvings that told the history of Alira's people. Jack had seen it from afar many times, but now it felt like they were stepping into the heart of Alira's world, into the place where the fate of their relationship would be decided. As they entered the chamber, Alira's people stared at them. In silence, the council members sat at a large, round table, their eyes cold and calculating as they observed Jack and Alira. The room felt cold, despite the warmth of the sun outside. Jack could sense the weight of their gaze, the judgment that hung in the air. "Speak," one of the council members, an older woman with silver hair, said. Her voice was sharp, commanding. "What is this about?" Alira stepped forward, her back straight, her voice steady but full of emotion. "This is about us," she said, her words ringing through the room. "Jack and I have formed a bond, a connection that I cannot ignore. I know the rules of our people, but I also know what we have is real." The room was silent for a moment. As the council members exchanged glances, Jack stood beside Alira, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the tension in the room, but he wasn't going to back down. He had to make them understand. "Your people fear what they don't understand," Jack said, his voice calm but firm. "But I'm not here to threaten your world. I'm here because I care about Alira. I want to learn from her people, to build something that can benefit both of our worlds. And I'm not going to leave just because it's difficult." Another council member, a tall man with dark eyes, scoffed. "You speak of peace, but your presence here is a risk to us. We've kept our society isolated for centuries to protect it. We cannot afford to let outsiders in, not even for the sake of one relationship." Jack felt a surge of frustration. He wanted to shout, to tell them that their way of life was based on fear, not understanding. But he knew that would only make things worse. Instead, he took a deep breath and spoke more carefully. "I understand your fear," Jack said, his voice softer now. "But I don't believe that keeping yourselves isolated will protect you forever. The galaxy is changing, and if you stay closed off, you'll only become weaker. I'm not asking you to change your entire way of life, but I am asking you to see us for what we are. Two people from different worlds who care for each other. That's all." Alira stepped closer to Jack, her eyes filled with determination. What we have is real, she said, her voice steady. And I will fight for it. I will fight for us. The council was silent for a long moment. Jack could feel the weight of their gaze, their judgment. But there was something else there too. Doubt, uncertainty. They weren't sure how to respond, how to deal with this challenge to their way of life. Finally, the older woman spoke again, her voice softer now. You have both made your case, she said, but we are not prepared to make a decision yet. It will take time. The council must discuss this further. Alira and Jack exchanged a look. It wasn't the answer they had hoped for, but it was something. They had made their voices heard. They had taken the first step in showing the council that they weren't afraid. They weren't going to let fear control their lives. We'll wait, Jack said, his voice calm. But we won't back down. Lyra nodded, a small but hopeful smile crossing her face. We'll wait, she said quietly. But I'm not afraid anymore. As they left the chamber, Jack could feel the weight of the decision they had just made. It wasn't over, not yet, but they had done what they could. They had faced the council, and now all they could do was wait. The days after the council meeting felt like they moved in slow motion. Jack and Alira spent a lot of time in the quiet corners of the city, away from the eyes of the council and the growing tension that filled the air. They didn't know what the future held, but they were sure of one thing. They had made the right choice in speaking up. They had declared their feelings, and now it was out of their hands. The council would decide, but Jack and Alira could only wait. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Alira and Jack walked along a quiet path that led to a small, peaceful lake. The water shimmered under the golden light, and the tall trees around them swayed gently in the wind. Alira was unusually quiet, her steps slower than usual. Jack could sense that something was on her mind. Alira, Jack said softly, breaking the silence. What's going on in your head? You been quiet all day? Lyra stopped walking and looked out at the water. Her expression was thoughtful, and Jack could see the worry in her eyes. She was worried about the council, about what they might decide. But Jack knew there was something else. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, she said finally, her voice quiet but full of emotion, about how the galaxy is changing. I see now that you're right. We can't hide forever. But it's hard for me to imagine a future where my people accept this. My world has always been so careful, so protected. I don't know if they'll ever truly understand us. Jack stepped closer to her, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. Alira, I know it's hard. And I know it's not going to be easy. But we've already made the first step. We've spoken up. And that's more than most would do. Yeah. To trust that this is the right path, even if it's difficult, Lyra turned to him, her violet eyes meeting his with a mixture of hope and fear. I'm scared, Jack. I don't want to lose everything. My people, my home, they're so important to me. But you're important to me too. I don't know what to do. Jack pulled her into a gentle embrace, wrapping his arms around her in comfort. You don't have to choose, Alira. You don't have to lose anything. We can find a way to make this work, together. You and me. No matter what happens with your people, I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. Alira rested, her head against his chest, taking a deep breath. Thank you, she whispered, her voice trembling. I don't know what I'd do without you. They stood there for a long moment, just holding each other in the quiet calm of the evening. The weight of their situation didn't feel as heavy in that moment. They were together, and that was enough for now. The following morning, Jack received a message from the council. It was time for them to make their decision. Alira met him in the garden outside the council chambers. She looked nervous, her hands trembling slightly. Jack reached for her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. Are you ready? Jack asked, his voice steady but filled with a little uncertainty. Alira nodded, her eyes filled with both determination and fear. We've come this far. I don't know what they'll say, but I know we've done everything we can. Together, they walked to the council chamber, their hearts beating faster with every step. As they entered the room, the council members were already waiting, their expressions unreadable. The older woman, the one who had spoken to them before, stood up and motioned for Jack and Alira to approach. Alira, the woman said, her voice firm but not unkind. We have discussed your request, and we have listened to what you and your human friend have said. Illyra stepped forward, her voice steady. I know that this is difficult for all of us, but I believe in what we have. I believe that we can find a way to make it work. I ask for your understanding. The council was silent for a moment. Jack could feel the tension in the air. It seemed like the decision was still far from certain. But then, the older woman spoke. Again, we have discussed this matter at length, she said, her eyes now softer than before. And after much consideration, we have come to a conclusion. Jack held his breath, waiting for her to continue. We have decided that we will allow this bond to continue, she said, her voice steady. We will allow you, Jack, to remain here with Illyra, but we will also make it clear that this decision is not without conditions. There will be no more secrecy. It will not be hidden from our people. The relationship will be open, and you must both work to build trust with our society. Illyra's face lit up with a mix of relief and joy. Jack couldn't believe what he was hearing. They had actually been given a chance. Thank you, Illyra said, her voice full of emotion. Thank you so much, the council member nodded. But remember, Illyra, this will not be easy. You will face challenges from those who do not agree with this decision. But it is now your responsibility to show them that this is not a threat. Jack stepped forward, his voice filled with gratitude. We will prove it to them. We will show them that we can build something strong together. The older woman nodded, her expression thoughtful. We hope you do, Jack. We hope you do. Us. They left the chamber. Jack and Illyra walked side by side, their hearts lighter than they had been in days. The council had given them a chance. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a step in the right direction. They still had a long way to go, but now they were not alone. They had each other. Jack looked over at Illyra, a smile spreading across his face. We did it, he said, his voice filled with awe. Illyra smiled back, her eyes shining with joy. Yes, we did. And this is just the beginning. They walked away from the council chamber, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next, together.